as you can see, we've been picking away at this header build. I've got the car back down over the headers for the first time after they got them kind of mocked up, and I have found some clearance issues for the steering shaft. I just can't get you there with the picture to see it because I can barely get my head there to see it. But I'll lift the car up and I'll show you where it's hitting, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, so the steering shaft has to come right past here, unfortunately. And that is right where we have a seam to. You can see that it's pretty much like it connects, but it's just touching. So that's going to be a little messy to deal with. Probably going to have to rework this tube. But that's the time to do it. Go under this and make you all dizzy. Okay, coming under the car. Here's where the turbo lives. And there is my header clearance. It fits. That's what I wanted to see. Now I can make it more permanent. What goes down can again go up and down and up and down. Okay, so it's time to tack that together. You can see my attempt at making the ports square. It was trying to make a small collector fit because there is not a whole lot of room in there. Now, the question is, can I get this header off without taking the motor mount off? The JBA version of this header, before I hacked it to pieces, required I remove this motor mount. I couldn't pull it off the engine. And that is less than ideal. I've still got a couple more hidden bolts, but no worse than what JBA sent me with, but not as good as the OEM. OEM's really hard to beat. They route everything with serviceability as primary, flow is secondary. Okay, so the headers are back from their second round at my TIG welding buddy, and now I have to put a collector on that, get it pointed in the right direction. This one here, I didn't have to cut the factory collector off, just had to shorten it so I could do it all in one visit. So this one's going to get installed, oops, let's go this way, enough to put wastegate plumbing in the elbow. That one's going to get the collector mocked up, the elbows mocked up, and the wastegate mocked up, and then both of those go back for their final weld, and then I can put that back together finally. I'm going to do something more interesting than look at tubes. Okay, for the 40,000th time, I'm going to let the car down and check the fitment of the header pipes and the turbo placements. All right, so it's been several weeks of back and forth with the headers because I can't TIG weld. I can, but nothing you'd want to see. And so I can't. So we've got them mocked up. So we've had them on and off in little pieces and been just tacking them up and then getting them TIG welded. And you kind of have to start in an order. So this one had to be rearranged a lot. And just building a collector back, and it has to be fully sealed inside of here before you weld the collector on, for example. And then some of these parts, it had to go in 3 stages anyways, so because all the tubes have to be welded fully before they get stuck back on the flange. So, but overall, I know they aren't show quality, but they are a lot better than what I had on there. Yes, that's a tactical steering shaft bit. But I just sanded them flat and on a big belt sander, a big stationary one. And yeah, we'll see if they work. Alright, we're gonna try this with all the factory studs in place. We do have header bolts. I like the studs better, and we'll see how that works out. I'm not sure if you can see this, but it looks like I may have had too much movement here, so I shouldn't have built this tube before the collector was fully welded on, because welding this on moved it enough that when the tolerances are this tight, not a lot of room for this wastegate here. It don't fit. It did fit at one time, but not currently. Yeah, so I cut that off. We'll try again. Well, let's see if we have any more luck with side B. Well, that wasn't that bad. Wasn't that good. Can't imagine doing it with the car around it. Anyways. So when trying to figure out these turbo placement down low, you can see my grinder work indicating tightness. So right now the car body is basically fractionally, like just about touching there. If you look up, way up inside the frame there, that's actually comes on down on top of it. See if I can make you all sick. And it is just like barely clearing that. And this here, it is just barely clearing the floor of the car. You see where that heat shield stuff is there when the car comes down. And then this here just barely clears the floor of the car here. And then this wastegate elbow is longer than the other side because I couldn't pull the wastegate into this zone, because you see this thing here, that's transmission level check. And you have to be able to get your hand up underneath here and fry it, but actually get to that to do the level check. So that wastegate's pushed back a little further. So as you can see, it's just a lot of stuff to fit in there. And on this side, where the wastegate just refused to fit after just the movement of welding up the collector, then the wastegate actually has to sit between the shifter lever. This moves back and forth, but that is full park, and it has to just about touch this heat shield here in park, like just, and that'll fit. Transmission cooler lines, and then because I can't move this one back at all because of the shifter, we end up like just fitting it in this space here. So then moving up, coming through here, this is the steering shaft route. And we can see everything's hooked in here for that. But this pipe was really, really close. So tactical dent, and it clears. And then of course the floor is right here as well. And so there's not a lot of extra room. And the turbos could go further forward. I think the kits that I've seen out there, they put this thick part of the turbo just this the intake side, just in front of the bell housing flange, and run shorter air filters than I do. But I kind of mocked it up with an air filter service in mind, and I think that probably was a mistake. I probably should have just lived with smaller air filters, and I think that probably makes the room problem just that much worse. So this kind of was originally placed around the stock header, which came down very sharply on this side and then had to go hard turn. So this stuff is obviously trying to get a 4-into-1 header going and get rid of some of this nasty. So these headers were kind of made from under the car with the motor still in, so it was very much just hack and thwack with MIG. But this area here is just a hard turn. I mean, this weird 3 collector with a tri-Y up here and a 3, this is unique to the 18s and ups. The early ones didn't do that, but that runs like this collection and then this crashing into it, and then these collecting ahead of time. This is a relatively restrictive header design once you start pushing it, and so the back pressure issues happen with turbos, and then you can't get any RPM. So even the better side, this one here, on the stock header, which has the more classic tri-Y design with a collection there and a collection here, and then just a 2Y here. We have a straight down collection again, and we cut it off as hard as we could because at the end of the day, the turbo compressor is laying right here. And if you don't cut this off and you do the Hellion style, that bolts onto this style of collector, because this is the same as the earlier cars, the Gen 2, Gen 1 headers. They bolt an adapter onto this, but their turbos are hanging, from what I can tell, at least 1.5 inches lower than mine. And I don't like my lowest part of the car to be a turbo. So at this point, maybe that was the better idea. There is, I think it's Aldo Welds, makes a turbo setup for these, and from what I have seen and what I have tried to do, I would say that his kit is probably the one that takes care of most of the concerns that I have in making this kit work nice. So his kit runs a nice 4-to-1 custom header that's made, from what I can tell, with pretty ideal routing, taking into consideration the real challenges that I have seen when trying to do it myself. So would I make this all over again? Probably not. Especially because I'm not even trying to make over 1,000 horsepower anymore, because I'm getting tired of taking apart 10-speeds. So I don't know, I kind of think these cars with, 800 horsepower and a supercharger with a built 10-speed is about the upper limit of a good time. After that, you're in for a lot of trouble. If you can make 800 horsepower with just a good supercharger kit, especially if you can get E85, because the stock ring gap seems to live longer on E85, although that I can't prove for sure, just a good theory. But yeah, so just in case I haven't explained it, this is my exhaust dump system. So you've got exhaust converters here, 2.5-inch exhaust, and pneumatic valves that open up. Dumps. And they do leak a little bit, which they all seem to, but those ones never seize up. And this car picks up like 100 horsepower from open 3-inch to the full exhaust. And the exhaust doesn't sound too bad. It's still a little raspy, with high flow cats, X-pipe, and then we just run completely stock with tips welded on them, active mufflers, and it seems to work. Anyways, that's the view. I'll let I have some more pie cuts, so I gotta get those, and then we'll fix that one wastegate fitment on this side, and then we should be able to put the engine back in the car, or the car back on the engine, as it were, and stop this particular review and maybe get a more exciting one. It's spring outside, so when this gets fixed, it gets insurance, and we get to start test driving things.